Redditors that worked with a dating company, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, etc. What's the most insane user stat or behind the scenes fact you found out about? I have a friend who works for, I wanna say Tinder. Anyway, the company isn't important. What is important is that her entire job is to remove inappropriate images. Her job is to look at dick pics all day, 5 days a week. That's all. No stat. Just a weird ducking job. Yeah, I've done that job. You get used to it pretty quickly. So many dicks and buttholes. Every shape, size and color imaginable. I used to monitor chat logs too. That's where the real ducked up shit is. Yeah, I feel like you're desensitized to dicks pretty quickly, but I'm sure chat is foul. My ex-BF worked for the Yahoo Italy dating site back in the early-ish 2000s. His job was to pretend to be a woman and message male customers just as their accounts were going to expire. This would encourage them to pay to renew their subscriptions. Once they renewed, he would ghost them. He only lasted for a few months due to how unethical it was. That's legitimately one of the saddest things I've read on this thread. It just makes me happy that I use Google, a completely ethical company with no history of flimsy morals. Guys swipe right on 47% of profiles. Women only swipe right on 12%. I knew some guys would swipe right more than women. Wasn't prepared for how little women swipe right. Edit. Here's some more. #SEARCHING for serious or casual relationships for men vs women. 61% of men want something serious, while 38% want something casual. 87% of women want something serious, while only 13% want something casual. It's worth noting on that last one, that it's partially because of a difference in how men and women would describe themselves. If they are not sure, women would rather say something serious if they are not sure to see how something goes but happy for it to turn casual if they are not feeling it, while men would prefer to say something casual and then happy for it to turn serious if they like them. This is why we've given in and added a not sure option in our big update next week. #FEEDBACK on chat/users. We are unique in that we only let you chat to 3 users at a time. So you have to end a chat to talk to someone new. When you end a chat you have to give private feedback. Here's some of the feedback people choose. You can pick more than one. 34% ghosted/didn't say anything. 12% great chat. 11% polite and respectful. 11% not enough in common. 8% no chemistry. 8% hard to talk to. 2% rude/inappropriate. #WHY people ghost. We call ourselves the anti-ghosting app because we notify you if someone replaces your chat with someone new. Since you can only talk to 3 at a time. Doesn't stop rejection, but at least you're not left wondering and waiting. We did some research with users to find out why people ghost on dating apps. They could choose more than one answer. 43% avoid the awkwardness of saying I wasn't interested. 37% they said/did something I didn't like. 36% was too busy and then it was too late. 32% couldn't be bothered to keep replying. 28% I forgot to reply. 25% couldn't think of a reply. 23% too many other people to respond to. 22% I've never ghosted anyone. 6% other. Source: I'm the founder of a dating app. Edit 2. Thanks for all the awards, support and kind words. Seriously means a lot. Have tried to answer as many questions as I can and might even do a proper AMA when we launch our big update next week if there's interest. I found this out when I mentioned that I already hit my limit on right swipes by 11 AM. The female friends I was with at the time looked confused, so I asked what was up. They had no idea there was a limit on right swipes, and they used it about as much as me. Why is there a limit? So you can't just right swipe everyone and settle for whatever you get back. Because for some people I can imagine that being a genuine game plan. Curious as I've never used a dating app. I married before they were a thing. They simply want you to pay for unlimited swipes and other bonuses to increase your chances. Otherwise you have to wait, maybe a day, for a refresh. Getting any matches this way takes months. Before Tinder introduced the limit, it was entirely possible to swipe right on everyone within a 30-mile radius fairly quickly. Unfortunately the quality of matches was still atrocious. Nah, free Tinder. pay Tinder for me the instant they made swipes finite. My matches got significantly more rotund. It was like Seinfeld, yeah, has cool, but is he sponge worthy? It was around the same time they started enforcing the age limit. I don't want 17-year-olds swiping on me. Age limit always worked for me, but lucky for you these 17-year-olds that beat the system couldn't talk to you without permission. I'd still say approximate 40% of the profiles I see have a line in their bio about being a different age to the one on their profile, even with it set to 19 to 25 prior to the change. There were an awful lot of 17-year-olds. I used to work at Bumble. Although this was about 4 to 5 years ago, globally, about 90% of the users are men. So there is a huge male to female disparity, although it's not that bad on a per country basis for some countries. The most depressing stat though was the histogram of word count in messages. Something like 91% of opening messages were just one word hey, and 85% of conversations were just one exchange long hey, no reply ever. Looking at human digital mating habits splayed out in data science form was really depressing. Update, yikes. This thread really exploded. Some people have asked me a lot of the same questions, so I'm providing answers here. 1. When I worked there, we were not allowed to read the content of chats. Only gather metadata about them, word count, number of exchanges. But we could not build models which analyze the content of chats. This chat was about food. This one was about holidays. This one was sexual. This was due to stringent GDPR laws at the time. And Bumble took user privacy very seriously. So chats were never read or analyzed for content. Not even by automated models. However, this was 4 to 5 years ago, and they may have mended their toss since then to allow it. Or they might be analyzing content for non-GDPR countries, USA. 2. The countries which had better male-female ratios, which I can remember, were the Nordic ones. Sweden and Norway were close to 50/50, and for a time, one of them even had more women on the app than men. Not sure how it is now. 3. The GDPR rules were released in 2016. Even earlier draft rules for some industries such as banking/finance and telecoms, but were not actually enforced until 2018. This grace period of 2 years was so that firms could implement all of the massive legal and technical protocols for GDPR, and many compliance/tech departments in London did nothing but a mad dash sprint for 2 to 3 years straight to get GDPR compliant before the 2018 deadline. As such, Bumble was already GDPR compliant, at least in terms of user chats. Don't know about other aspects. Well before 2018, as I said, they took user privacy seriously. Even before GDPR, we weren't allowed to read chat messages due to a combination of user privacy toss, specific to Bumble, and GDPR draft rules. I just wrote GDPR as a catch-all term for all of the various privacy rules in effect then, including toss. But yes, I agree. The rules were not enforced yet. I apologize that I wasn't specific. I wrote my reply quickly this morning not thinking it would explode like this, and so just blurted out GDPR without getting pedantic about which rules in which years. Apologies for any confusion. Update 2. Thank you most kindly for all of the awards, kind strangers. I very much appreciate it. If 90% of users on dating apps are men, where are single women looking for someone? I ran operations for an online dating company, notably not affiliated with Match. From database analytics I can tell you a few things. Men initiate contact around 80% of the time in straight matchmaking. And if you are a woman looking to date other women and you simply initiate contact with another woman, you have a good chance of success simply because it's very common for women to match, but then neither initiates contact. We were able to determine that it takes on average about 3 dates before sex happens. I don't recall how we worked that out. I'm not a data analyst, but presumably it was some keyword based algorithm looking at chat messages. We got so many requests for information from the police that we had an informal system with them to save them from wasting time getting warrants for information about people who we didn't have data on. They would ask about a particular name/email/whatever other identifier, and we would just say yes, we have data about them, or no we don't. And if we did, they'd then go get the warrant to get a copy of it. The other thing I can tell you from our analytics that really shouldn't be at all surprising is to get some decent profile photos. Go get your talented friend or just hire a photographer to take some really nicely lit well composed photos of yourself and watch your match rate soar. I'm a lesbian and I can definitely vouch for women never messaging each other after matching. A ton of people even had I don't message first written in their bias. I'd say close to 100% of the conversations I had on Tinder were ones I initiated. It was so goddamn frustrating. If you think about it, women grow up being taught that if they are desirable, they will be pursued. The man approaches you at the bar. The man asks you out. The man proposes, etc. But if you keep that mentality when trying to date people who also don't want to make the first move, then nothing ducking happens. You stare at each other from a distance for a while and then go home and watch TV. Like we are gay, gender roles already don't apply to us. So why are we adhering to the literal most counterproductive aspect of straight dating culture? Exclamation mark. Sorry for the rant. I'm just really frustrated LMAO. This was years ago now, but I used to work with a guy who had been an engineer for Match.com. He said 99% of the profiles were inactive, and that 80% of the active profiles were men. He didn't provide numbers, but also said there was a huge disparity between the average number of messages sent to women versus those sent to men. According to him, all told the site was mostly men reaching out to dead profiles and never getting responses. As I said, however, this was years ago, so it's entirely possible that they've cleaned the site up since then. Not sure about Match, but I know Tinder automatically removes you from the lineup, so to speak, if you have been inactive for more than 7 days. Most dating sites and apps are owned by one company, the Match Group. They have a near monopoly. I think Bumble is one of the few not owned by them. Those ducktids bought OkCupid and turned it from something awesome into a steaming pile of shit that sucks even more than Tinder. For those that don't know how it was 7 to 8 years ago, usernames could be your first name or something else like a nickname. Various free text fields to describe you. Also searchable. Structured metadata, age, smoking, drugs, looking for, offspring. That could be filtered by match questions that were actually fun to answer and check how others answered on stuff interesting / important to you. Quizzes from personality type over nerdiness to kinkiness and much more. And you could see the results in someone's profile. No swiping. You just messaged people, actual messages or chat, and you could switch from one to the other if you were online at the same time, if you wanted to. Premium accounts were very affordable and only had some small gimmicks but nothing seriously important. Search by more superficial details like body type, not showing up in someone's visit list unless you want to reveal yourself, etc. Close bracket. So basically it was an awesome site regardless if you were looking for friends, dates, ducks, or were just curious to find out more about strangers. And now, real names only. Swiping. No search. Shitty UI. Clearly not interested in desktop users. Much more expensive premium accounts. That's a shame. I loved OKC and brought it up a year or so ago to a younger friend Hoss on Tinder, and he gave me the whatever old man attitude. But OKC was actually kind of fun to answer all the questions and comb through your match's answers. One time I went out with a 99% match that had 300 plus questions answered identical to mine, and the only one that was different was she wanted to duck in a booth with people watching. Made me question if I really did and hadn't realized it yet. And then the creators had a blog that they shared tons of interesting statistical info. I even bought their book on it. One time I went out with a 99% match that had 300 plus questions answered identical to mine, and the only one that was different was she wanted to duck in a booth with people watching. Did the questionnaire ease you into those kind of questions? Like it started with 1. What's your favorite color? But by 299, you were being asked about niche sexual practices? It was a bit random what questions you got at first, but you could also look at the questions other people had answered and answer those as well. It wouldn't show you their answer until you had answered, and you couldn't change it for 24 hours. Edit, not random. Based on what was most divisive. See below. It was not random. It started with questions that were most divisive by response percentage to start filtering people apart who had major disagreements. That's why one of the first ones was like, what's more important, love or sex? People always disagreed. Not been working, but a friend wrote her master thesis about the different criteria in online dating and real life. Almost half, 43%, the female participants who were in a relationship told they'd never have swiped right on their current partner. Other interesting results were that over 60% of men they wrote with on apps and agreed to go on a date would have no chance if they asked in real life. Edit, since many asked about the thesis, I'll ask her if she can share it here, but be prepared. It's in German. As to the second point, I don't know exactly how she worded the question in the survey, but she was referring to clubs and the like. I went speed dating, IRL, in 2012. Only time I ever went. And I was super nervous. We got 5 minutes with every partner. And at the end of the night you have a card, and you tick the box of the women you're interested in. And they tick the men their own cards. And the organizers email you the next day with anyone you matched with. I ticked 3 potentials. And the next day I got 1 match in my email. I met up with her again. And we went out on a couple of dates after that. On the second date she confessed, I didn't tick you. My friend did. She was there with her best friend. The friend liked me and ticked me on her own card. Then ticked me on this girl's card too because she thought it would be a good idea. That's how we matched. Anyway, it all worked out great. We got married in 2014 and now have 2 daughters. She never would have ticked me if her friend wasn't there. I'm not her type at all. But it goes to show that relationships are weird. And that statistic about wives wouldn't have swiped on their husbands makes total sense to me. I met my wife move-in weekend freshman year. The reason we started hanging out is because her friend knocked on my door. Guess they were coming down to my room to ask me to hang out, and my wife chickened out. So her friend knocked. Coming up on 12 years now. A couple met on the dating app I worked on. Unfortunately, the man passed away and the lady returned to the app where they met for remembrance. One day, a bug in the system made some profile likes to be sent again after months, and she received one from her deceased boyfriend. Her bug report was heartbreaking. My old boss was the financial controller of a big dating site. He kept on seeing these big invoices for modeling agencies and initially thought it was because of the big parties they used to host. When he asked about it, it turned out it was just content for the fake profiles they created to lure in users. I would love to know how openly cynical the algorithm really is. My feed on Hinge shows absolutely no one I'm interested in. And suddenly, the roses feature pops up. I'm interested in all the people in the roses section. But, oh, it's 4 to buy 1 rose, which is no guarantee of a match, much less a date. They want to keep you using the app and spending money for as long as possible, and their slogan designed to be deleted is such BS it's comical. And you can't turn to other apps because they're all owned by the same corporation. Yeah, these roses are something else. Is the implication there that Hinge users are as desperate as contestants on The Bachelor? Because if so, well played to the Hinge marketing department. I've actually noticed that the profiles rotate from the standouts section to the standard section. The profiles in the standouts will eventually appear in the standard feed, and the opposite is true too. It takes about a month either way, though. Therefore, I think Hinge is preying on people's sense of loneliness and FOMO. This likely felt especially dirty because when standouts was initially introduced, many users, myself included, either coincidentally ran out of profiles to view on the normal feed right around the time standouts was introduced. I had barely used the app for 3 weeks before standouts was introduced. If you enjoy watching these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks.